It's Fully Threaded Radio, episode 203.
Quote, we are starting to see signs of the much threatened slowdown. We're also seeing more local and new competitors open, and they have no idea what they're doing. They aren't disrupting the market, but damaging it. That's always bad. End quote.
I think that's been a part of this industry for a long time, and that's part of what we have to get up and deal with on a daily basis. And there is a lot of new people coming on the scene that doesn't always understand the market and where we're going, but that's just part of what we do.
In this scenario, it really is a disaster recovery, business continuity type of discussion, because there can be many different types of disasters. And so while this CrowdStrike maybe didn't hit them directly, because most of their systems are Windows-based, because they rely on the internet and some have cloud-based servers and ransomware, but it could be as much as, hey, all your Windows machines, maybe Windows comes out with an update that crashes everything and it takes a while. So all of these items are unexpected events that affect you being able to do business. And so if you haven't had discussions about what is our plan.
I remember when she came out of college and she was working at Copper States with John, and they were supporting that airbag business that Copper State had there in the Phoenix area. You talk about a force of nature and the way she's gone about and her passion for the fastener industry with, the fastener training. She's a woman in the industry. She's just, again, we talk about people in the fastener industry that really stand out and lead. She's one of those people.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. If you buy, sell, manufacture, import, distribute, consider fondly from time to time industrial threaded fasteners, well, this is the podcast for you. Very glad you clicked in, everyone. Eric Dudas with you here, and the co-host of Fully Threaded is with us as well. I'll be heading out his way right after we finish putting this one together, so it's going to be a quick one. Brian Musker, how the heck are you?
I'm fine, and I'm looking forward to everything next week, so it's good, actually.
It's an exciting time because we're trying to get as much done this week as we can in preparation for being away involved with Fastener Week. Most of you know that, and a lot of you will be there, but everyone's wondering, of course, who's going to win the coveted FTR award at the golf outing, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yes, you are, actually.
We've got a wonderful episode, this being episode 203 of Fully Threaded Radio. We'll be publishing this time on August 16th, 2024. Hopefully a few folks will get a chance while they're driving towards Chicago to check it out. But however you listen in, once again, we're so glad you're here.
Yes, and we look forward to seeing you next week too.
Many of you, yes. Of course, the whole show and event season is really ramping up. We've got a few dates to share with you on today's episode as well. Not everyone can make every event, but there's plenty of them across the country to go around. Also going around the country and the rest of the world lately, we were treated to the specter of a really hair-raising cyber situation. As many of you may recall, of course, the way headlines go these days, Bri, it's almost like a distant memory, but we should all keep it in mind. That's the Cloudstrike situation that caused a lot of major companies to go offline for, well, some of them for a couple of weeks, as it turns out. Pretty ugly.
Yeah, it was.
Well, Will Snyder of industry technology provider company WTC is joining us for the feature segment today. He's going to walk through really what went down on that and what fastener distributors should take away from the whole situation as a lesson. Sounds like not too many, if any, at all, fastener distributors were directly impacted. However, everyone felt the downstream effects, and it makes you really wonder because we're all so dependent on technology. Will Snyder, WTC.
Right.
We'll launch things today with a conversation with recently announced National Sales Manager for Goebel Fasteners, Mr. Sam Underwood. He's a longtime industry vet. He shares with us a little bit of his background, how he got to where he is today, and that's driving Goebel. We'll get things rolling that way today. On the Fastener News Report, Birmingham Fastener and Supply CEO Brad Tinney joins Mike McNulty. Now, this is Brad's first time doing the FDI guest commentary, Bri, and he really chose a hard one to jump in on.
Yeah. Well, we're lucky we can have all sorts of people we can call on to do this.
Well, that's a good point. You know, he's up for the challenge, and it was great to have him on. Word's gotten out that the FDI took a hit in July. He and Mike will pour over the possible causes and fallout of that. Plus, Mike will round up all the headlines for us. On the Fastener Training Minute, future Hall of Famer Carmen Vertullo is going to talk flange joints with gaskets.
Really? Okay.
Yes. So whip out your slide rule or whatever you use. He's going to do some pi r squared calculations, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
You know how he gets.
Yeah, I know. It takes me back a while.
It's Carmen Vertullo on the Fastener Training Minute. So there's a lot to get to today. Again, I'm going to try to do this as expeditiously as possible so I can pack up and head out, see you, Lynn, Harpo, Sydney, the whole
zoo. Right, the menagerie.
Of course, the MWFA Fastener Week has been promoted pretty thoroughly. We put out a special report with GQ and Valdez a couple days back. And so I guess you could think of this really as an NFA and MWFA joint conference. But whatever the reason, if you're heading out to Chicago, look forward to seeing you out there. And a lot of our sponsors will be in attendance. Bri, this is your department because it's time for you to let everyone know who brings you this fine podcast.
Right. And we've been lucky for years. We have great sponsors. We've got to know them. They're good to us. If you're thinking of fasteners, then make sure you think of these sponsors first because they make this possible. The title sponsors are Fully Threaded Radio, Brighton Best International, Goebel Fasteners, and Star Stainless Screw Company. Brighton Best International, tested, tried, and true. Goebel Fasteners, quality the first time. Star Stainless Screw Company, right off the shelf. Also sponsoring Fully Threaded Radio are Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, InSequel Software, J-Land Franco, 3Q Inc., Volt Industrial Plastics, Worth Industry North America, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man.
Thanks to all our sponsors, and thank you, sir. Reach out to us anytime. We're always interested to hear what you think or to hear your questions. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. We also get out to LinkedIn from time to time, so you can reach Brian and I that way as well. So with all the excitement heading into the MWFA event, Brian, next week, we can't fail to mention that right around the corner, just after that, is the International Fastener Expo, the Vegas show, because the date has been moved up this year. And so it'll seem like the next week, but it's September 9th through the 11th. That's, of course, happening Mandalay Bay, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Then we can get back to some actual real work after that.
After that, yes, but not before.
I know.
Sadly, that's not going to happen. We got plenty piled up. I do want to mention, though, that I got a text from Morgan Wilson. He's the show manager over there at the International Fastener Expo with Emerald. He wants everyone to know that they've announced a new event. It's an after-hours event, and they're calling it IFE After Dark. It's happening on Tuesday from 9 to 11, and it'll be in the Foundation Room. I presume that's right there on the Mandalay campus. You can get details for that at fastenershows.com. Sounds like tickets are required for this. Again, it's IFE After Dark on Tuesday from 9 to 11. So much going on in Vegas this year, Bri, as usual.
Yep.
And there's a lot going on this episode of the podcast, so we'll quit yammering now and do a little business and put a wrench to this one. What do you think?
All right. I think it's probably time.
Thanks for listening, everyone. It's Fully Threaded.
2 men, 1 server, a fastener dog, and a stunning lack of more lucrative alternatives. It's Fully Threaded Radio.
Brighton Best International is excited to introduce Preferred cement screws, finished with a special coating for corrosion resistance, featuring a patented Posi drive with anti-cam out ribs. These screws ensure a strong and secure bit engagement. Ready to experience the Preferred difference? Give our cement screws a try and discover how they perform. Explore our cement screws for added durability. Also available, stainless steel decking screws. For more information, visit preferredscrews.com or contact your personalized pro for more details.
Goebel Fasteners has launched a brand new line of high-strength structural blind rivets that are used in heavy truck and trailer, railroad, solar, metal building construction, and other industries that require a vibration-resistant fastener for strong, long-lasting installations. Available in steel, stainless steel, and aluminium ranging from 3 by 16-inch diameter up to 3 by 8-inch diameter, these structural rivets are a solid solution for a variety of applications. Goebel Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
With Star Stainless, our personalized service and nationwide network of distribution centers allows you to order rivets, hose clamps, and fasteners from one source. Star continues to be your one-stop shop to consolidate vendors, reduce transactions, and save on shipping costs. Choose Star Stainless for a comprehensive inventory that meets all your hardware needs. Star Stainless Screw Company is a division of Linfast Solutions Group.
Hi, this is Dave, the voice of Buckeye Fasteners and Old Rusty Gold Beer, the preferred beer of the traveling salesman. And you are listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you, doing this Fastener podcasting thing we do.
Just because you were down in Austin does not mean you need to pick up such obvious Texas slang, okay?
Did it sound that way, Bri?
It sounds very, very much like that, actually.
Oh my, I hope I'm not picking up a deep southern accent like yours.
Yeah, you'll be saying y'all next.
Well, we keep going down to Austin, you never know.
Right.
Of course, I'm the one who should be concerned about you because we're doing this huge scrubber project right now. And for the first time in all these scrubber jobs we've done, you're doing a major French translation. So you got this huge table that you're working on.
Yes, I am, actually. And I've found there's lots of different French words for different types of fasteners. I guess it's the same as English, you know. They've been making fasteners as long as everyone else has.
Well, we just keep on learning with this scrubber business. It's kind of interesting when you think about it, though. We've never done a Spanish one, and we've also never done a German one, both of which you have some competency in. So I guess theoretically we could jump into some of those projects if they came our way.
Right. Well, we do have the German, partial German translations, but no Spanish.
Which is a huge and growing international area. Well, lots to think about there. Speaking of international, Goebel Fasteners is an international company. We'll be talking with their recently named National Sales Manager, Sam Underwood, in just a moment. But saw this headline flash by on LinkedIn. Goebel CEO Christian Reich shot this out. Says Goebel Fasteners, Inc. has been recognized for our continued growth on the Inc. 5,000 list of America's fastest growing private companies, with 3-year revenue growth at 385%.
Wow.
Congratulations, Goebel.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty good. Like, very good.
Sounds like a headline you always hear coming out of Field Fastener or something. Nope, it's Goebel Fasteners. We're glad to have them as partners, of course, and we're glad to have Sam Underwood as our lead-off guest on today's episode. Why don't we get to that right now, Bri?
Okay, yeah.
Fully Threaded listeners know that an old friend of the podcast, of course, is Goebel Fasteners. Title sponsors, longtime partners. They've got a new person on the team. That name is Sam Underwood. He joins us now. Hey, Sam, thanks for jumping on today.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
It's good to speak with you, Sam. I don't know you that well, but we were getting to know each other the other day on the phone warming up for this. And you've got quite a bit of experience with the industry. And one of the things you said to me was you're so glad to be on with Goebel because, among other reasons, since 2018, they've sure come a long way in the North American market. And I totally agree with you on that one.
And they have. And I think a lot of it is that core values that they bring to the company and the culture that they create here at Goebel. And, a lot of things they want to do is treat the customer right, have the stock on the shelf, ship it on time, and turn those quotes around. And that's the one thing that was a breath of fresh air to me, was to see them be able to turn quotes and ship products so quickly.
Fast quote turnaround. Okay. So there's probably a whole slew of principles that can apply to any fastener distributor listening out there. And we could talk about a few of those for sure. But your experience in the fastener industry goes back quite a ways. You got a pedigree as well as some relationship with Goebel, as I understand it. We can jump in anywhere on this, but I'm very interested to hear your further thoughts on the things that have allowed Goebel to make so much progress. Where do you want to start?
I think it goes back to Marcel and his family, it being a family-owned company, since the mid-1970s, and just their drive and focus on providing good quality products. One of the things that they're doing right now is they're reshoring. They're trying to bring more products that they present to the market to be manufactured in Germany. And that plant will be up full running, I would say, by the end of this month, the end of August. The first week of September, they'll be online and producing product in Germany.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And we've been reporting on the upcoming World Riveting Congress that's going to be happening. We'll pick back up on that later in the conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
But that's a huge part of that, isn't it?
It is. It is. They started that company by just manufacturing self-tapping screws. And they've done a really great job of widening that product, and they continue to do that to this day.
Get back to the quoting for a second. What allows Goebel to turn those quotes around so fast? That's a big hang up for a lot of fastener distributors.
I think it has to do with the way they're set up here. They've got a great ERP system. They really focus on training and cross-training within the group. It's really a team here. I do some quotes, but I'm not as sharp at it as the rest of the team, because I've only been here, I'm going on 60 days now. But they've got a dedicated team that focuses on when the quotes come in, it's logged in. And again, it's very focused on trying to get that turned. Again, it's about the information we get. If we get the correct information from the distributor or the customer, we're able to identify what that part is and get it quoted quickly.
We should have spelled out at the top here that your title is National Sales Manager. You're basically going to be driving all this.
Yes, I will with the team. Again, I've got to say that Christian has put in an excellent staff. He's got very well-trained people. Our inside sales manager, Justin, has done he actually came through the company, started in the warehouse. So he had the product knowledge. He knew everything about the company, Goebel, from the, you could say from the back door to the front door. And he's very competent, and he does a really great job.
All right. So training, getting the right information from customers, cross-training, and product knowledge. Those are all things that you put pretty high on the list.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got some folks that, have only been in the fastener business a few years. I'd say, anywhere from 1 to 5 inside sales. But, with the training, educating them on the different types of product, exposing them to the functionality of the parts, it gives them a good background, a good base to be able to respond to customer needs.
I'm gathering that you have worked elsewhere and you've seen things that don't work as smoothly as they do at Goebel. And that's one of the things you bring to the table over there.
And this is true. I mean, I've got 50 years plus in the fastener side of things. And my last position was a great place to work. I really enjoyed it, but there was a change in culture, change of direction. And here at Goebel, they are really focused on growing the business. They want to build the brand. And I like that sort of build the brand. And that's one of the things that Christian is really focused on, is getting the word out about who we are, creating that reputation in the marketplace, that we're dependable and that we can provide a quality product and at a reasonable price and delivered on time.
Now, hang on. Before we go too much farther, you said 50 years, 50, in the fastener industry, Sam?
Yes. My father, who is probably my biggest mentor, he worked for a fastening company for over 40 years. And he worked for a master distributor for Senco fastening systems based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. So he tells my mom I started when I was 9 years old. And I say, no, I was probably closer to 12 or 13. And basically, I just cleaned up around the place, emptied trash cans, cleaned toilets, emptied ashtrays, and then eventually started pulling orders. Those fasteners are used in the manufactured housing in RV markets, and a lot of those were painted. And we would paint those fasteners and pack them back up and ship them out. So I was a junior in high school when they needed a person to go work their first inside storefront. And so we repaired the tools and we actually sold product at that place. And it was a summer job in Nashville, Tennessee. And so I've got a lot of experience, not only in the nail and staple business, but the blind fastener industry too. But the folks at Senco, I think, really built my foundation. One of the founders built Towing House based out of Cincinnati. George Kennedy, who was one of the people that designed the first pneumatic staple guns. And their first customer was General Motors, just north of Cincinnati there. And I just, like I said, I worked there until I, started back to school and back in the military, because I had 4 years in the military. And so I've got about 5 years that you can't count, maybe in that 50 plus years because of school and military.
All right. We'll just say spanning 50 years.
Spanning 50 years. That's a good way to put it. But no. And then I got out of the military, was looking at doing something else, and just by chance went back to work for Senco Direct. And I was based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I was there for about 8 years, and then decided I wanted to go do something else. And a gentleman contacted me by the name of John Waltman. I think we all know John. And John is probably my second mentor in the fastener industry. And he hired me, and I worked for Cherry Textron, and I was there for quite some time. And then from there, kind of got into the aerospace side of things for a while, and then went to work for Cooper Power Tools. Again, tools that installed fasteners, Apex, Clico, Daco, those types of tools, and automotive, heat and air conditioning, those types of places. So I've always been around fasteners. And then John, through his knowledge of a lot of people, introduced me to a lot of, I would say, the key people in the fastener industry, folks like Andy Cohn, Martin Calfee. And my condolences go out to the Calfee family this week with Martin's passing last week.
Yeah, real sad news.
It is. But in a nutshell, that's pretty much my 50 years in the fastener industry. And it's been great. I mean, I've met a lot of people I'm not going to mention here today, but our paths cross with people that influence us. And I've mentioned a few of those today. And I've been very fortunate to be, in the fastener industry and work for the companies that I have.
Well, you've got one of these stories that's just classic, and I love them, where you start at your father's foot and you're cleaning up around the warehouse maybe and Hell, you even came right out and said it, cleaning toilets. And look at where you're at today. That's just a great testament to yourself as well as the fastener industry, because it has supported so many guys like you having a great career, a great life, and a great industry. So thanks for sharing all that, Sam.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
So now you're national sales director at Goebel Fasteners, and you're going to apply some of that wisdom to this team working with Christian. And as you mentioned, he's done a lot to bring Goebel a long way in the short time. And you're going to be going nowhere but up is my guess. And
Correct.
We mentioned this World Riveting Congress. Marcel's been driving that. I know he's super excited about it. I didn't actually make the connection with the bringing the manufacturing back to Germany, but I think some plant tours are probably in store for everybody. Is that true?
That's true. And let me just step back. My title is National Sales Manager. That's it. But no, going back to Marcel, I talked with him just the other day in a joint call with Christian, and yeah, he's extremely excited. It's an opportunity to really show what he and his family have done there, and they're going to start off that first day of the conference with plant tours. There's going to be lectures by Christian and by Marcel and Elias. They've got people coming in from other locations. They're going to talk about heading. They're going to do a plant tour showing the new headers and the new setup of the facility there. And this is over 2 days. And we've also got folks coming in from the U.S. We've got Landon and Ronnie coming in from SmartCert, and we're looking very much forward to seeing them.
Team SmartCert, they're everywhere.
They are. Great
well, that's
company.
super exciting. And again, the dates for that?
It's going to start September the 26th through the 28th. The last day, that's Saturday, they're going to have a Texas Scramble. They're going to do a golfing event there. So yeah, it's very exciting. And like you said, Marcel's very excited about the opportunity to bring manufacturing back to Germany, more manufacturing in the country. And again, I think a lot of it has been concerns with Asia and what issues could arrive with making sure that everybody has supply chain stability. And I think that's the key there.
Well, I know those decisions are not taken lightly, and there's a lot of shifting going around in the supply chain these days. Goebel customers are used to getting supplied on time, and that's another one of the reasons they've made the progress they have. So it's really great to see this happening.
And I got to hand it to Christian and Marcel. This is just another option. We're still going to draw product from Taiwan and China as we have in the past. But this just gives us another level of being able to supply more product and ensure that supply chain.
I know you've only been there for a short amount of time, but are you seeing any issues at all with bringing product out of Europe? We were talking with Craig Penland of Eurolink last episode, and he was telling us that in certain cases it's getting a little rocky to get materials and stuff like that. I mean, do you see that at all yet?
I haven't seen it yet. In my past position, we were working with another European company, and in some cases, depending on, I think it's how it's being shipped over. I think it's how it's being delivered. I think those may be the issues, and we were investigating. Okay, how do you package it, and how do you send it? And I think those could be some of the issues.
Well, you're going to be ramping up in what you're doing over there. What do you have your eye on the most right now? I mean, what's your top priority as you get ramped up?
Right now, the sales team that I've got out in the field, we've got a team of manufacturers reps, and that's what I've done before I was at ABK. I had a position at Cooper Power Tools where I managed reps, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm kind of coordinating efforts, direction with the reps. We've got a great team. And so that's it. Right now, we're looking at introducing new product. We have what we call the S-Lock, which is equivalent to the Huck Lock. And we have a Duo Lock, which is an equivalent to the Magna Bolt. And then we've got a product that no one else has. It's a lock. It's a pin and collar lock bolt. Right now, it's in stainless steel, and we call it the G-Grip. And what that is a multi-grip lock bolt. So you could replace 6 parts or more with 1 part because of the grip range that it allows you to do. This is patent pending, and it's a new product, and we're getting to roll that out.
Well, that's super exciting. Makes it nice to go to work when you have a great product line and a great team every day, doesn't it?
It's exciting. I mean, like I said, I've been here only almost 60 days, and it's a lot. There's a lot of great things, and I knew that coming in. As I said, I've known Christian since 2018, and what brought us to start to know each other was the tooling. And Goebel has probably, I would say, one of the best set of tools for rivets, threaded inserts, lock bolts that any company can put on the market. And I think it's quality, and it's at an excellent price point. And that's how he and I got together, and that's how I met him back in 2018. And I've just kind of watched what he's done and how he's brought Goebel to market. And he and I would see each other at a trade show, and I would always comment, "Oh, this really looks nice. You're doing a good job," And I think that's one of the reasons why he approached me, is that I've always been very positive about the direction of Goebel from the start. I call him when I was over at AVK. He was a friendly competitor. I mean,
I love that. It happens so often in the fastener industry, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, it's a broad product line. They're just not a one pony show. They've got, like I said, several different product lines plus the tooling to support those.
The other connection that's been rekindled with this Goebel relationship that you have now, Sam, is with Cowboy John Walkman. I mean, that came full circle. I was kind of surprised you didn't tell me about your relationship when we were on the phone the other day. So that's very cool. Now he's working for you as a sales rep with Desert Distribution, isn't he?
Well, we may want to step back on that. He always did. He was I don't know if we want to go with this, because he was a rep for AVK, but only things he did for Goebel was the rivets and the lock bolts. He did not promote the competitive product, and we kind of let him do that when we were over there. But no, I'm glad to have both, not only he, but Joe and David. What a great team. Yeah, I've been, as you know, I've been very respectful of the folks at AVK.
100%, only way to be. And I think everybody understands these relationships. A lot of reps do special services for companies like that, and they'll just take a piece of their product line when it calls for it. And then when conditions change, you make the adjustments. So
Right. Yeah.
It's nice to see you working with a friend, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's, like I said, Joe Morris. I've known Joe for well over 30 years. I remember when she came out of college and she was working at Copper State with John, and they were supporting that airbag business that Copper State had there in the Phoenix area. So yeah, I've known Joe for a long time. And you talk about a force of nature and the way she's gone about and her passion for the fastener industry with, the fastener training. She's a woman in the industry. She's just, again, we talk about people in the fastener industry that really stand out and lead. She's one of those people. And I commend her because, one, she's a female in the fastener market, and there's not a lot of strong women that are able to do what Joe's been able to do over the last 20 plus years of her career.
You got that right. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I wasn't expecting this either, but I'll take it any day because I'm a huge Joe Morris fan too.
Yeah, she's super.
Well, listen, Sam Underwood, you're the national sales manager for Goebel. Sorry about the error earlier, but good to get to meet you, and I look forward to seeing you. I'm sure I will run into you at various trade events and things down the road. But, there's one thing we have to cover before we wrap up our conversation here. Our first
Absolutely.
one, I'll say, today, and that is we have a different pronunciation strategy for Goebel. And Christian and I have talked about this in the past. It's an ongoing thing. There's several ways to pronounce a company, but you're a Goebel guy, aren't you? I'm a Goebel, you're a Goebel.
I'm a Goebel because you got that G-O, and I look at that E as kind of being silent. But yeah, Goebel. It's funny if you and I want everybody to call in and call customer service. And when you first call in, we've got an automated system, and she pronounces it very, very uniquely also. So yeah, please do. Please call us, check on our product, ask for a quote. So we're here for you. Test us on that 24-hour turnaround.
GoebelFasteners.com. However you say it, go Goebel. That's what I say, Sam.
I'm going to quote you on that, okay?
Anytime. Well, it's a pleasure to speak with you. Look forward to the next time, and just keep it running, will you?
We will. We got a lot of things to keep us running.
Goebel Fasteners launched our brand new 18-volt lithium-ion cordless battery tools last year, and they have been an industry favorite since. With an affordable price point, user-intuitive design, robust ergonomic construction, and strong pulling force, these tools are best in class. They are proven ideal for demanding assembly, maintenance, general metalworking, and trucking industry applications. Goebel Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
MacGyver, by the looks of that detonator, this whole place is gonna blow in just 10 seconds.
Just stay calm, Judy. All we need is a metric fastener manufactured to an ISO or DIN standard.
10 seconds, MacGyver. What about the fastener?
Not a problem. Eurolink specializes in hard-to-find metric fasteners. Delivered. Did you contact the sales team at EurolinkFSS.com like I asked you to last week?
Well, no. I tried other importers, but they couldn't fulfill the quotes.
Oh, Judy, now we're completely screwed. Eurolink. Hard-to-find metric fasteners. Delivered.
Precision, efficiency, durability. J.L. Franco has been a trusted name for the finest lock nuts worldwide and across North America for over 40 years. J.L. Franco keeps projects on track, on time, and on budget, providing self-locking lock nuts and critical bolting components for applications in aerospace, energy, military, rail, mining, industrial, and many other sectors where reliability and high performance are essential. Learn more about J.L. Franco online at www.jlanfranco.com, and don't miss our booth at Fastener Fair USA. J.L. Franco, lock nuts for critical bolted joints.
Hi, this is Tim Vaff from Solution Industries. You are listening to Brian and Eric on Fully Threaded Radio.
And it's time for the Fastener News. You excited, Brian?
Yeah, very. I'm just waiting to say my intro line.
I know, it's always a lot of fun. This time we don't have any pesky guests that are going to take that away from you, so it's going to be all yours. Warm up those pipes, will you?
Okay. Right.
McNulty's got Birmingham Fastener President Brad Tinney with him today. He'll be talking about the FDI, among other things. And of course, the Fastener News segment is brought to you by Volt Industrial Plastics, as it has been for many years.
Yeah.
Heidi's going to be out there in Chicago next week.
She usually comes into this Midwest event. She was there last year too.
Volt are relatively new members. They've been participating for a long time, but I'm pretty sure they became formal members. And I got a text here from her, said, "Hey, what's going on, Heidi?" And she says, "Well, we're very busy with our new heavy-duty cable clamps." So that's something that she'll be talking about a lot in Chicago next week. So if that's something that interests you, a lot of applications for plastics you might never have thought of. Heidi will help you think them up. Maybe save some money for you and your customers. Volt Industrial Plastics is the way to go on that.
And that's their complete specialty, is plastic fasteners.
World's finest. And just before we get to the news, couple of events. We told you we'd line up a couple more of these before the show was out. First one, save the date. If you're out on the East Coast, The Metropolitan Fastener Distributor Association has their Fall Fest coming up in September. That's September 24th and 25th. They've got a golf outing and a tabletop. It's happening at the Crystal Springs Resort in Hardston, New Jersey.
Okay.
Brighton Best East Coast honcho Mike White is the president out there at the MFDA. Tried to get him on for this one, Bri. We just could not line it up, and so therefore he's not going to steal your thunder for the intro this time, but he was slated.
Just as well.
MFDA. I really wanted to get him on because to me, they're still one of the most mysterious of all the fastener associations.
Yeah.
But they've got their Fall Fest coming up in September.
Cool.
Another one, Pac West is doing a dinner meeting on October 10th called What's New, What's Next, or that's the theme. And they've gathered up John Zhu from Brighton and Tim Roberto Jr. with Star, two of our fantastic sponsors, and they'll be doing a panel on that. Two-man panel. What's New, What's Next? Pac West, October 10th. Get out to pac-west.org for more details. It's happening in La Mirada, California. And their vendor showcase events are always pretty well attended. I think with this panel, the showcase, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Of course, Brighton Best International, Star Stainless, and Goebel Fasteners are the title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio. We appreciate it a lot, and we appreciate all of you listening in. We've got some good comments lately, and we're listening, folks. Appreciate it a lot. One other thing before I pass it over to you, Bri. Saw this come through right after we got done with McNulty. Headline, a lot of people know Joe Shoemaker. Well, he just accepted a position as Vice President of Marketing over at AFC Industries.
Oh.
So he's got a new home, and he's going to be practicing his craft among friends, as we were hoping. We knew he'd wind up somewhere good. Well, it's AFC. Congratulations, Joe.
Yeah, we've known him for a fair while, and I'd be really keen to see what new marketing stuff he produces. Maybe some of his LinkedIn posts.
Well, rest assured it'll be everywhere, and it won't take him long to hit his stride. He works fast. And another thing that's going fast is the clock. So I'm going to hand it off to you.
Okay.
And we'll get this thing going.
I've been waiting expectantly with bated breath.
Fire away.
And now, for news about screws that you can use, here's Mike McNulty.
Thanks, Eric and Brian. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. With nearly 40% more medals than any other country, including all the state-sponsored communists, Team USA basically owned the Summer Olympics in Paris, and we now have earned 2,755 Summer Olympic medals over the last 12 decades. 2.7 times more than the second-place Soviet Union, which we held forced out of existence, and 2.8 times more than the next highest, Great Britain, which we defeated in the American Revolutionary War. But I am still focused on fasteners and ready to deliver today's Fastener News Report. In this episode, Brad Tinney, President and CEO of Birmingham Fastener and Supply, joins us to reveal the latest results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as the FDI. Also in today's broadcast, we have our top story on 3 fastener industry market forecasts, as well as newsmaker headlines from Autobolt, Phoenix Fastener, Lawson Products, Star Stainless, Penn Engineering, Great Lakes Fasteners, Rotor Clip, Hewitt, Fastenal, Rottwasher, Endries, International Fastener, and many more. On the back page report, we're going to talk about the working journal. We'll get to all of that and the latest FDI results right after this.
There's a reason Volt Industrial Plastics is an industry leader in plastic clip, clamp, and custom fastener manufacturing. With over 100 million parts in stock that can be shipped the same day, Volt has some of the fastest lead times in the industry. Volt can do color. We have the capability of molding over 120 different materials and can color match for specific applications. You need it? We can build it. At Volt, we have state-of-the-art technology to build prototypes to customer specs. And although some companies provide similar products, we offer customer service that's second to none, setting us apart from our competition. And now available, Volt's new light-duty cable clamps. With maximum diameters ranging from 3/16 to a ½ inch, these clamps are ideal for hard-to-reach spaces, electronics, and finish work. They prevent corrosion with metal tubing, and with plastic tubing, they won't bind or warp, preventing leaks while maintaining the flow of liquids. Volt Industrial Plastics, the finest, fastest plastic fasteners in the world. Visit us at voltplastics.com.
Since 1905, Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company have been supplying the world with high-quality fasteners. Our standard product lines include weld fasteners, braided weld screws, leg levelers, self-clinching hardware, clevis pins, rivet nuts, and various other fastener lines, allowing us to support virtually all types of industries. BuckeyeFasteners.com. Buckeye Fasteners, more than just weld.
Solution Man, Ken.
Solution Man, you're my fastener hero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
SOLUTION, SOLUTION. Solution Industry. We are Solution.
Mike McNulty.
The seasonally adjusted Fastener Distributor Index for July 2024 plunged to 47.5 versus 52.1 in June. This was the first time since January of this year that the FDI came in below 50. The forward-looking indicator, also known as the FLI, dropped more modestly to 49.6 versus 50.9 the previous month, dropping below 50 for the first time in 4 months. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by the FCH Sourcing Network and Baird. The FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener distribution industry. To get some insight on these results, we talked to Brad Tinney, President and CEO of Birmingham Fastener and Supply. Hello, Brad. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Hello, Mike. Thank you for having me today. Glad to be here. I've enjoyed the program for several years, and this is my first time on, so thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. I'm glad to have you on here. And as you mentioned, this is your first time, so you come in with a report that's a little bit less than optimal. So what do you think about the FDI results?
I noticed that this weekend when I was looking through the numbers, and I kind of wanted to play the trombone on this little podcast machine because I'm usually a glass half full kind of guy, and this one's. We've studied it, we've looked at it, and I'm grateful that our operating financials didn't reflect what we saw in June. So we're excited about what's coming our way, and hopefully these numbers had a little bit of a glitch in the matrix this month.
Yeah, definitely. The raw numbers, all the metrics that the FDI measures are sales, employment, supplier deliveries, respondent inventories, customer inventories, then pricing on a month-to-month and a year-to-year basis. And looking at the numbers, they're all down except for customer inventories, which were up slightly. And I'm just noticing that the sales number came in at 43.3, and that's the by far the lowest one of 2024, and going back into the fall of last year. You guys see a similar dip in sales, or maybe not as bad as the overall FDI?
We haven't seen a significant dip in sales this month. Actually, July was pretty good for us. Now, we were pretty worried coming through May, but we had a pretty good July as far as an increase in sales. Now, we are below budget, but ahead of last year, and that's a place that we like to live. We set some pretty aggressive budgets, but being below budget but ahead of last year.
Well, that's a good thing to note, and it's also important to note that these are aggregate numbers. So some people are going to be better, and some people are going to be worse, and get the average. But the average this time around was below.
And I wonder. So we've got operations in Texas too, and we lost 4 or 5 days with Hurricane Beryl there in Texas. So how many of the survey takers are in Texas as well? But we struggled with our Texas operations with the different weather events.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, these are seasonally adjusted, and you do have a little bit of a slowdown in the summertime. But throwing in missed work days because of weather definitely would put a damper on the sales number.
And we definitely missed, I think we missed 4 or 5 work days out of a month that we were shocked. There were power outages and things like that. So we definitely paid attention to it.
Good. Any of these other numbers catch your attention? The pricing dipped down a little bit, or actually the year-to-year pricing took quite a big drop from dropped to 42 versus almost 55 last time.
Yeah, the sales one was really the one that that was a huge dip there. Customer inventories, pricing month to month, pricing year to year.
Okay, well, the looking at, we mentioned the FLI also dropped, not as badly as the FDI dropped, but it dropped below the 50-point line. And reminding listeners again that 50 is the kind of the point where if you're above 50, it's growing, and below 50, it's declining. And came in at just under at 49.6. That's just the since 4 months ago is the last time it was below 50. But the 6-month outlook moderated quite a bit. We've got 38% of respondents expecting things to be better 6 months from now, 31 expecting them to be same, and a high number on the low, 31% of the people expecting them to be lower. And that's a drop from last month where it was 45 expecting better, 35 the same, and 19 expecting worse. So quite a few people moving into the worst category. What's your take on that?
I think too many people are watching the news. We try not to watch too much news around here, keep our nose down and do the best job that we can do every day. But if you watch too much CNN or Fox News, you would think the sky's falling.
Yeah, and it's different when you go outside and in the real world, isn't it?
Exactly. Focus, control the controllables that we can control here and keep pushing forward. And I think we're optimistic about the next 6 months. I'm a firm believer that we're probably in the third industrial revolution. Birmingham Fasteners heavy into construction fasteners, and we see a lot of construction going on across the country for the next several years. And I know we also follow the Bolio brothers and the Great Depression talk of 2030, but
that's a ways off.
It's a ways off from now. So we're optimistic going into at a minimum, the next 6 months for the next couple of years and expanding and things like that. But there is a lot of work. I know with the battery industry slowed down. We had a couple of jobs that were put on hold, but still there's new things that come in every day that are positive for us that we're extremely excited about.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of good things going out there, especially in manufacturing and construction. In the long term, I think it's going to be okay.
And Mike, that's one thing that we looked at. If you look at Birmingham Fastener Company as a whole, we were probably 70% distribution, 30% manufacturing in the early 2000s. We've seen a pivotal shift from we are probably closer now to 50% manufacturing, 50% distribution.
Yeah, you guys definitely got a lot of good things going on. The other number I want to mention is the Purchasing Managers Index, the PMI, that dropped as well to its lowest level in 2024. So maybe those folks in the purchasing department are watching the news too much as well.
They are, and probably hearing from guys like us that are coming in and tell them to get inventories lower and things like that. I know can't sell from an empty wagon was one thing my father told me a long time ago. And then you start looking at managing cash flows and things like that. And we definitely loaded the wagon. And what we've seen at our customers, a lot of customers filled up their warehouses, and now in the definitely not as tough as it was during COVID times as far as supply chains and things like that. So we're hoping that last year it was people were selling from full warehouses, and now we're kind of coming back to a normal way of doing business.
Okay, well let's move on into the comments section. And some participants, like yourself, saw some healthy trends in July and remained upbeat. But then the majority of the comments that Baird collected were on the cautious tone in the near-term current trends outlook. So the first comment we have is, quote, lots of uncertainty in the markets due to factors such as war, election, energy prices, etc. We are hiring for some technical positions in the expectations that 2025 will be a solid year, end quote. Then the next comment is definite decline in our July incoming order rate. We hope things pick up after the summer slowdowns, end quote. So a little bit of on the negative side there, but the outlook, looking forward to hiring some people next year, that's a good sign. And then some other people talked about seasonal weakness. Business in July is typically a little slower to begin with due to vacations, mid-year inventory balancing, etc. But this July saw a drop in inquiries and incoming OEM orders that we have not seen in 5 years. Business is slowing everywhere and customers still have inventory. On the plus side, pricing has relaxed a bit. On the flip side, when it turns back, there will be likely a rush of orders flooding the market at the same time, and pricing will likely increase. So we got a plus side and a flip side there. Any comments on that?
I think that's just the type of industry that we're in. It's definitely two different views with those comments there. And I think if you survey the many different distributors and manufacturers in our industry, it's
right.
It's really hard to say. And I think there's a lot of the geographical parts of the country are busier than others. So we're excited about what's happening.
You got regional differences and market differences, and it all kind of goes into the same pot.
It does, yes.
Okay, then we had some comments on inventory, and these are not positive either. Distributors' inventory levels are creating increased competition for parts availability. And then another comment, somebody's worried about new entrants to the market causing challenges. Quote, we are starting to see signs of the much threatened slowdown. We're also seeing more local and new competitors open, and they have no idea what they're doing. They aren't disrupting the market, but damaging it. That's always bad. End quote.
I think that's been a part of this industry for a long time, and that's part of what we have to get up and deal with on a daily basis. And there is a lot of new people coming onto the scene that doesn't always understand the market and where we're going. But that's just part of what we do.
Yeah, nothing new. But I like that comment. No idea what they're doing.
Right. I got a chuckle out of that when I read that.
Yeah. All right. Then the last comment we have is looking at the broader economy. Quote, we are worried about the economy over the 12 months, but we continue to roll out new business. End quote. So balancing out the worries with getting new customers and new products.
You talk about the election year and things like that all you want, but I've looked at our sales history over the past 30 years, and we've done just as well during Democratic leadership as we have Republican leadership. So we try to keep the election talk and things like that out of our vernacular during the days that we're talking about budgets and what we can do and competing with ourselves of can we be better than we were yesterday.
Yeah, control the things that you can control. And
exactly. And
the other things, don't worry about them.
Don't worry about them. Let's just work as hard as we can and make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Okay, so finally, can we give you a chance to tell the listeners and what is going on at Birmingham Fastener and Supply?
Yes, sir. We've been busy at Birmingham Fastener and Supply the past couple of years. Had a lot of good opportunities to partner with some of our long-term partners through acquisitions. We've now opened our first location in aerospace, Alabama Aerospace, opened a location in Querétaro, Mexico that we're extremely excited about. We just opened the doors in California for another aerospace expansion out there, but through organic growth down in our Houston locations to some partnerships with people that we've had relationships for a long time. We are extremely excited about the future and what's coming down the path. And one thing that, if you look at the segments that we service from waterworks to aerospace to construction, OEM, MRO, there's a ton of opportunities if we just stay focused on what we're doing and making sure that we're aggressive. We're a sales organization. We enjoy selling. We enjoy being out there and meeting our clients and trying to do as much as we can. And I think we bring through our manufacturing facilities that we have from Santa Fe Springs, California, through Texas, all the way to Georgia. There's a ton of opportunities that we're just trying to be the best fastener manufacturing / distribution company that we can be. And there's a lot of shakeup in our industry and some opportunities for some people that we're excited about and opening new locations. I think our appetite for acquisitional growth is we're kind of slowing down on that realm. But we are looking to expand where we have opportunities in different parts of the country.
Yeah, you guys have definitely been active in the acquisition and expansion. And I'm looking at I'm on your website looking at the list of locations. It's a pretty long list, and it's impressive. And I like the combination of manufacturing and distribution, as well as being present all over the country. And now, as you mentioned, down in New Mexico, which is seems to be a smart move.
that was one of those things that was, we wanted to be coast to coast, and we are now, and even down in our first international expansion. And we're not doing any manufacturing in Mexico, but we're studying what that model looks like, and trying to understand it, because we think that there's a huge trading partner down there, and there's a lot of business that are coming back. We are seeing a lot of pressure from India and things like that, and we want to. I grew up in the manufacturing world at Birmingham Fastener. That's where I feel comfortable, and that's is something that excites us. And I'm excited about the team and the knowledge base that we have in our manufacturing operations here. And I would put this team up against anybody in the land. But
that's good. It's always good to make things, right?
We love making things.
Also, on a marketing side, I have to say I've always admired your company logo, and the way when you get a new branch, you incorporate the logo, the B and the F interlock there in with the new name. I think that's a clever way to market it.
Well, that we struggled with that when we did it. We went through a whole marketing strategy a couple of years ago, and one thing that we looked at is we always believed that people kind of wanted to buy local, and how do we expand and keep the name Birmingham Fastener? But Birmingham Fastener in Santa Fe Springs, California doesn't always go as well as you would think. So how do we incorporate it, keep the names, and also through the acquisitional model that we had, we wanted to make sure that those companies that we were partnering with could keep their names. They were names that had good reputations in the industry, and we didn't want to take that away from them by merging them onto that. So we feel like we did a pretty good job of putting that together with a Birmingham Fastener company, but each company still they still have their name in the industry. But
right, they've built up that brand over a long time. You want to still capitalize on that.
Yeah, we didn't want to take that away, and we wanted to make sure that people knew who they were dealing with as we partnered up. And that was, the first one we had ever done was John White and I at Atlanta Rod came together, and the industry kind of viewed us as competitors, but John and I always had a healthy respect for each other, and Atlanta Rod was really good at what Birmingham Fastener was not good at, and it has been an absolute wonderful partnership. And
yeah, I think it's good. I did a good job on that, and effective, and I always admired that, so I wanted to bring that up. And let's see, I was looking, also looking at the About page, when we look at the timeline from 1980 to 2024, a lot of activity on that timeline.
It is. There was a few years of not too much activity, but yeah, it's been the past 10 years. My mother and father started Birmingham Fastener in 1980, and I've been blessed to shepherd it into the future. And I get up every day and say a little prayer. Brad, don't screw this up today, whatever you do. And my father passed away in 2013, a little over 10 years ago. And we've been hustling ever since. And the vision that the people that taught me, I grew up in the shop, running cut threaders and furnaces and things like that, and really enjoyed being out there on the manufacturing side of our business and the distribution. Birmingham Fastener started as a distribution company, and we got into the manufacturing world in the late 90s, and that's where I spent most of my time, and just really enjoyed creating things and making things in this country, I think.
So you got Fastener lubricant in your blood, maybe.
Exactly. We've been in it a long time, and excited about my son is actually a senior in high school this year, and he will be finished with school, I think, at 11 o'clock. He starts next week. He'll be doing an internship with us.
Oh, coming in. Yeah, very good.
Coming in. So we're excited about him coming in, and my ultimate vision and
so
goal.
He's a senior in high school. Is he going to follow? This is a good segue to my last question. I was going to ask you about Alabama.
Roll
Is he going to follow your footsteps there?
Roll Tide. I don't know. My wife is from Texas.
Okay.
We have a lot of operations in Texas. My mother-in-law still lives in Texas. So he is, for some reason, leaning towards attending college in Texas for some reason.
Okay. So you only get 50% influence there,
exactly.
Or maybe less.
But both my wife and I met at the University of Alabama, and we'd be happy with him, but we're kind of letting him pick that path of which direction. And he came home and was fired up about school.
Well, there's good, a lot of good in both states.
Exactly. And my son loves the outdoors. So he loves being outside, whether it's fishing, hunting, anything outdoor. So Texas is known for its outdoor activities. So he's probably in that way.
Very good. Well, it's good to hear the family component in the fastener industry. Everybody enjoys that and appreciates that. So, keep up the good work there at Birmingham Fastener. And before we go, I have to just ask you, you being an Alabama guy, what's it going to be like this year without Nick Saban on the sidelines?
Well, that we will see, and not too many in just a few weeks. But we knew that it couldn't last forever. And Coach Saban is. I've had the opportunity to visit with him a couple of times, and wow, what a dynamic leader! And
great.
Following in those footsteps, I know Coach Kalen DeBoer has a big shoes to fill, and everything that we're hearing is positive. But it's going to be interesting to see what it looks like when those guys take the field.
Yeah, those are big shoes to fill, but you got a good background and reputation, and I'm sure the Crimson Tide will show up good.
I would not want to be that guy that had to fill those shoes.
But there's all kinds of other things going on in college football that are out of your control. So who knows about that?
I've watched some of these NIL deals and all these college quarterbacks getting brand new Lamborghinis. I'm like, what world are we living in right now?
Yeah, times have changed.
It's different,
but still good sport, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm sure you are too.
We are too.
All right, very good. Well, good job on your first time, and I hope it's not your last time. And thanks for coming onto the program and sharing your insight. And it's good to hear about everything that's going on at Birmingham Fastener and Supply.
Mike, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Hopefully I didn't butcher it too bad. Glad to be here, and let me know if I need to redo anything.
No, you did a good job. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
That was Brad Tinney. He's the president and CEO of Birmingham Fastener and Supply. The FDI number for July 2024 was 47.5 versus 52.1 in June. Visit FDIsurvey.com to participate in the process and get a detailed PDF copy of Baird's monthly analysis. Now for today's top story. 3 fastener industry market reports came across my desk this month. One on industrial fasteners, another covering plastic fasteners, and the third on titanium fasteners. The Industrial Fasteners Market Intelligence Report, published by USD Analytics Market, says that the global industrial fasteners market is poised to register 5.2% annual growth over the next 6 years, growing from $91.6 billion in 2024 to $124.2 billion in 2030. Increasing demand is expected to come from the automotive, construction, and manufacturing industries, as well as developments in the MRO sector. The report identifies the importance of distribution channels and the efforts that companies are making to refine their distribution models, especially in digital technology. Technavio says the global plastic fasteners market will grow by $1.36 billion from 2024 to 2028 at an annual clip of 4.5%. Driven by cost advantages and the desire for lighter weight solutions. However, regulations against plastic use may present some challenges to the growth, while the use of recycled materials may enhance market performance by aligning them with environmental regulations. The plastic fasteners market is expected to grow mostly in the electronics and automotive industries, and materials such as nylon, polypropylene, polyethylene, ABS, and PVC are popular choices for fasteners, including grommets and bushings, threaded fasteners, cable clips and ties, washers and spacers, wall plugs, and more. Research and Market says that the global market for aerospace titanium fasteners, valued last calendar year at $2.8 billion, is projected to reach $3.8 billion by the year 2030, growing at an annual rate of 4.2%. Several trends are emerging in the aerospace titanium fasteners market, but most notably is the increased use of titanium fasteners by the military. High temperature resistance, corrosion resistance, and non-magnetic properties make titanium fasteners ideal for use in fighter jets, helicopters, and unmanned aerial vehicles. The forecast numbers in each of these 3 fastener reports are impressive and well ahead of expected GDP growth rates. If they are accurate, many industrial plastic and titanium fastener suppliers will be pleased for the rest of this decade. Next up, today's Fastener Newsmaker headlines. In corporate news, Nefco acquired Modern Fasteners. Autobolt was named one of the top workplaces in Cleveland, Ohio. TR Fastenings opened a new facility in China. Birmingham Fastener opened Phoenix Fastener. Lawson Products Canada signed an agreement to acquire Source Atlantic Limited. Boomax appointed Star Stainless Screw Company as its new master distribution partner in the United States. Bassard Group signed an agreement to acquire the French Aero Negoce International Group, also known as ANI. Penn Engineering expanded its facility in Galway, Ireland. The Great Lakes Fastener Group acquired Superior Component Supply, also known as SCS. And Rotor Clip won a Caterpillar Supplier Excellence Award, and it introduced a new patented wave spring engineered for the EV market. In personnel news, Hewitt announced Dave Audia as its new Vice President of Sales, Dewey Oxner as its new Director of Sales, and Chris Levicki as a new Regional Sales Manager. Bolton Group named Axel Bertson as its new President and CEO. Fastenal Company appointed Jeff Watts as President and Chief Sales Officer. Blackhawk Industrial promoted Perry Atchley to the newly created position of Implementation Manager, Fasteners. Rottwasher hired Quinn Angel as its new National Sales Manager. Endries International introduced Jeff Poulos as its new Executive Vice President of Operations. International Fasteners announced Law Winchester as its Director of West Coast Sales. Stanley Black & Decker named Deborah Wintner Senior Vice President, Chief Human Resources Officer. And on January 1st, 2025, John Michael Alofini, Hillman's current COO, will transition to President and CEO, and Doug Cahill, Hillman's current Chairman, President, and CEO, will transition to Executive Chairman. You can get details on all of these stories and more in Fastener Technology International Magazine and the Fastener News Report monthly newsletter, both available online at fastenertech.com. Now let's turn to the back page to talk about the Working Journal. In the August-September issue of Fastener Technology International Magazine, we have a new columnist, Michael J. Fiedler, and the title of his column is The Working Journal. This is also the name of his book, website, and social media account, which he calls a photographic and handwritten documentary of the jobs, professions, and endeavors that shape our connectivity to the people and the world around us. I saw one of Michael Fiedler's manufacturing work posts on LinkedIn, and I was impressed with the high quality of the black and white images, reflecting and celebrating the dignity of all types of workers, as well as the personal handwritten descriptions of the work. So I contacted him to see if he would share his stories with the fastener industry, and the result of the first installment can be found on pages 56 and 57 of the August-September issue of Fastener Technology International. It features Michael Fiedler's origin story on the Working Journal, a couple images of Annalie Ruiz of Unimetal Surface Finishing in Connecticut, and a handwritten paragraph that she wrote about her work at Unimetal. It also includes her statement, quote, "It's very satisfying to be part of the manufacturing process," end quote. Amen, I say to that. We plan to offer the Working Journal as a regular editorial feature in the magazine, and I encourage you to check it out. If you're interested in having a visit from the author and becoming part of the Working Journal, contact me or visit the About section of www.working-journal.com. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
This is Jake Davis with BTM Manufacturing, and for over 50 years, we have been a leading manufacturer of bent wire and threaded products, including U-bolts, single and double-end studs, anchor bolts, and many more per-print items. Based in the heart of America, Kansas City, Missouri, BTM supports Fully Threaded Radio because they support our fastener industry. Being a part of FTR is almost as good as a hot cup of industry favorite U-bolt blend coffee. And if you still don't know how good that is, call BTM Manufacturing today and find out for yourself. BTM Manufacturing, commitment to service.
At Worth, status quo isn't an option. Worth is a global supply chain solutions provider of fasteners, MRO, and safety products, along with value-added services like kitting and assembly, 3D printing, and engineering assistance. Find out what Worth can do for you at worthindustry.com.
Well, hey everyone, this is Carmen Vertullo with your Fastener Training Minute, coming to you from Carver Labs in beautiful El Cajon, California, and the Fastener Training Institute. Today's Fastener Training Minute is all about stainless steel, or some things about stainless steel, I should say, based on a recent consultation I had regarding the wisdom or lack thereof in substituting various fastener grades of stainless steel, or you might want to call conditions, and the ups and downs of that. And in this particular application, the use of flanges and gaskets were involved, which adds further complexity to that decision. So when I return, I'm going to tell you about a couple of different fastener standards, stainless steel fastener standards, the various products contained within them as it regards to flange bolting, and the implications of using fasteners in gasketed joints.
Thanks, Carmen. Hello, everybody. I am Jo Morris with the Fastener Training Institute. We have a ton of fastener training classes to kickstart your summer. First, Carmen and I are currently presenting a brand new live webinar series on fastener basics. This is the class really that absolutely everybody in our industry should watch. If you have new hires, you're cross-training, or you're promoting from within, your team absolutely has to understand the basics of our industry. We just completed parts 1, 2, and 3, so I'll send you the recordings, but please join us for part 4 on June 27th. In this series, we're teaching all about drives, screw threads, platings, coatings, how to call out parts, and a whole bunch more. I mean, we're talking rivets, pins, anchors, everything. Again, these are great for newbies. It's a great refresher course for your entire team. Some other exciting news for the summer is that we are starting our single-day Certified Fastener Specialist courses resuming late summer. We've chatted at length about how great Fastener Training Week is, and it really is, but not everybody has a full week to take off. So we're offering students the ability to take single classes, every class individually, 1 per month, to obtain their Certified Fastener Specialist designation. So we're going to be starting with a full-day class on specs and terms, followed by understanding the bolted joint, dimensional and material specifications, then fastener quality assurance, followed by fastener testing, followed by some tours of some great fastener manufacturing plants and secondary process plant tours. Again, all of our single-day classes are going to be presented in beautiful sunny California. Another reason for all of us to fly out to California. Lastly, mark your calendars for July 26th. We are co-producing a webinar with the Industrial Fasteners Institute on Understanding Galling and Fasteners, presented by Lawrence Klaus. For more information about all of these classes, all of our webinars, and any upcoming events, please visit our website at fastenertraining.com. Now back to Carmen.
Quality products, quality service, quality customers. That's 3Q Inc., a fastener distributor unlike any you've worked with before. With its unique remote managed inventory stocking programs, wide array of secondary service offerings, and wholly owned cold forming capability, 3Q Inc. has been supporting fastener distributors since 2008. 3Q offers a wide range of 100% American-made fasteners, including ITW SEMS lock washers, as well as specialty and imported parts. Give 3Q a call today to discuss your needs and experience 3Q quality for yourself. 3Q Inc. www.3q-inc.com.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute. Today, talking about stainless steel bolting in flanged joints using gaskets. First, I want to start with, I guess, what is a commonly known misperception that stainless steel is high strength. It generally is not high strength in comparison to alloy steel. It's actually lower strength than most steels. We have two major standards from ASTM that cover stainless steel fasteners, and those are ASTM F593 and ASTM A193. Those both have companion standards for nuts. In the case of F593, it's F594, and in the case of A193, it's A194. But for this discussion, we're going to stick with the bolts. If you're in the metric world, your standard would be ISO 3506, and that standard covers stainless steel bolting -1, 3506-1, and the -2 would be for nuts. Within all of those standards, we have alloys and we have conditions. The alloy would be the chemical properties or the chemistry of the bolt and called out by specific AISI alloy, American Institute of Steel and Iron. So in A193 and A194, the two primary alloys that we're going to be considering are 304 stainless steel and 316 stainless steel. In ASTM F593, we have alloy groups. Alloy Group 1 contains 304 stainless steel and a whole bunch of others, which are generally referred to as austenitic or 18-8 stainless steels. These include 302, 302HQ, 303, and so on. But for the most part, we're going to stick to what would be considered 304 stainless steel. And in A193, we also have two different alloy groups for 304 stainless and 316 stainless. In the case of 304 stainless, it's called grade B8, and in the case of 316 stainless, it's called B8M. Now back to F593. For 316 stainless, we would call that alloy group 2, and it's all by itself. No other alloys live in that group. Within all of those alloy groups and grades, we also have what's called condition. Condition determines the strength of the material, and it is generally achieved by one of two methods, either heat treating or strain hardening. For the most part, those two alloy groups are not able to be strengthened through heat treating. So they must achieve higher strength through strain hardening. And in the case of F593, we call that condition SH for strain hardened. In A193, we call that condition class 2. Same thing. And in essence, what we're doing when we manufacture the fastener is before we manufacture it, we are cold working that material in such a way as to increase its strength. And these two alloys, 304 stainless and its brothers and sisters, excluding 303, and 316 stainless, are miraculous in their ability to be strengthened through strain hardening. Matter of fact, if you don't know, one of the miracles that we have in these alloys is we can strain harden it very high, especially in thin sheets and wires. And that's what rocket ships are made out of. Elon Musk makes all of his rockets out of strain hardened stainless steel. Matter of fact, all the rockets that were made back in the 50s and 60s for the Apollo program were made out of that same material as well. And we have not found a way to improve it. Going forward into fasteners, fasteners generally are not thin sections. They're maybe starting at 1/4 of an inch. Let's go up to 1.5 inches. And the problem is the strain hardening effect only goes so deep into the material. So the cross section of the fastener, especially when it gets very large, is going to be stronger out on the edges of that round bar or that hex bar than it is towards the center. Now, the consequence of this is if we're going to make strain hardened fasteners out of, let's say, round bar, let's say it's a larger diameter. We're going to make a 1-inch fastener, probably out of 1.5 inch round bar. I don't know what that might be. First thing we're going to do is we're going to machine the hex maybe, so we're going to remove some. Then we're going to machine 1/4 of an inch of material off the outside of that bar in order to achieve our finished diameter. Essentially, we're peeling off all the good stuff. So now we have an inner part of the fastener, while still strain hardened, is not as strong as the outer. So that's a consequence that we must take into consideration when using strain hardened material, either in hex bar or round bar. One of the things, and this is an aside, I'll step out of the topic for a minute, that I would advise or I guess consult clients on is when you really want to redeem the strength of strain hardened stainless steel bars, use studs and nuts. That way you're not peeling off the good stuff. Let's continue on with bolts. Now, in this particular consultation, a client was putting some pipelines together in a water treatment system, and the specified fasteners were F593 condition CW. And in this case, the CW fasteners were adequate for the application. However, another part of the application required condition SH, strain hardened, which are substantially stronger in yield strength and tensile strength. The condition CW, or as worked cold work fasteners, have a relatively low specified yield strength compared to the SH or strain hardened. So the question was, would we be able to use these CW fasteners, which are readily available off the shelf, in place of the SH fasteners? Well, we did some calculations based on the pressures in the system, and we determined that there was adequate strength for the CW fasteners to be used. In other words, all the pressure in the pipeline in PSI times the cross-sectional area added up to a certain number of hundreds of thousands of pounds, and we had enough bolts in the flange in order to make it so that pressure would not be exceeded with a reasonable safety margin. However, there is another rub, and that rub is the gasket. Now, one of the things we have to do when we put flanges together with a gasket, we have to ensure that that gasket is adequately pressurized to make the seal. And that pressurization of the gasket is achieved by clamping it between the flanges with the assembled bolting. For most gaskets, no problem. However, we have some gaskets on the market, and in particular, this gasket is a fibrous gasket, which requires an extensive amount of compression in order to be effective. That's because, unlike a soft or even a hard rubber gasket, these gaskets are actually porous. They have fibers in them. And in order for them to seal, we must crush the gasket enough to push those fibers together and create the seal. And in many cases, condition CW bolting, or in the case of A193, condition 1 bolting, is not strong enough to compress the gasket, even though it may be strong enough to hold the pressure that's applied by the system. So the solution to this oftentimes is we use a gasket in a joint with a raised face flange. Now, if you imagine a gasket, a big ring, donut shaped with a bunch of holes in it, it has a cross-sectional area, which we determined by the formula pi r squared, the area of the gasket on the outside minus the area of the gasket on the inside minus all of the holes. And then we take that cross-sectional area and we multiply it by the force that the gasket manufacturer is telling us to compress that gasket with. And our bolting has to add up to at least that with some margin of safety. And that's a large area, by the way, with the typical flat-faced gasket. However, if we have a raised face on the flange, now we have a much smaller area to compress because we're not compressing the whole gasket. We're only compressing the amount of the raised face. And that's what makes these gaskets work with the lower strength bolting. And sometimes they don't. So we have to make that calculation. What's the area of the raised face? What's the gasket compressibility requirement? And what is our available bolting that we can use in order to achieve that load? The best way to determine whether or not the system is going to work is to do a simple pressure test, make sure that the gasket is compressed. Another way to make sure that the gasket is compressed is we can measure the gap. In other words, once the two flanges come together, there's going to be a gap. Generally, these gaskets need to be compressed by somewhere between 10 and 25% of their original thickness, and we can measure it to make sure that we have that. We also need to be aware that in the case of soft rubber gaskets, these boltings probably are strong enough to damage the gasket. We can crush the gasket and therefore end up losing our seal because we've damaged the gasket. So at the end of the day, when it comes to flanged joints with gaskets, we have to remember it's all about the gasket. It's not about the bolts. It's not about the pressure in the system. We must be able to compress the gasket adequately to achieve the seal. We have to make sure we have enough oomph in the bolting to do that. And we also have to make sure that if we have a soft gasket, we don't over-tighten. And with some of these larger bolts, the torque and the tightening can be very, very low. So now we don't really have a very tight joint. So that can be an issue as well. Also, when it comes to stainless steel, we have other things to consider in the torque-tension relationship. And that means we want to make sure that we use a very good lubricant. Molybdenum disulfide or some kind of nickel-based anti-seize is what's recommended. That will do two things for us. It will prevent galling, and it will give us a predictable torque-tension relationship. Well, there is actually a lot more to know about flanges with gaskets when it comes to bolting. I have developed a really cool, I think, Excel spreadsheet calculator for calculating gasket bolting requirements. And also I've written a book on waterworks fastening that I'd be happy to share with you if you're interested. Well, this has been Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute. Thanks for listening.
Hi, this is Lisa Kleinhandler from Fastener News Desk at FastenerNewsDesk.com, where we bring you all things fascinating. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio with Eric and Brian.
We talk a lot about technology on Fully Threaded Radio, and let's face it, that's because everybody in the fastener industry is using it and is growing even more dependent upon it to run their operations. On July 19th, the world was treated to a major technology. It's more than a fiasco, Bri. It was what is it, a tragedy? I don't know. Some 8.5 million Windows devices were affected, and Cloudstrike, a services provider, was implicated in somehow doing an update, pushing this bug out there. We know it wasn't a denial of service attack or a malware thing, but it was something, and it shut a lot of businesses down, caused a lot of problems in North America and in Europe. Joining us now to elucidate on that, help us understand it, and what it might mean for the fastener industry, it's Will Snyder of WTC. They provide technology services for lots of fastener companies. We'll hear more about that. Hey, Will, thanks for jumping on with us.
No problem. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, it's good. You can clear our minds as well as everyone else's.
Well, I'll do my best to do that.
Good.
That might be a big ask, but I'll try.
I really enjoyed listening to your presentation at the Southwest Fastener Association meeting several weeks ago down there in Fort Worth. And as soon as I read this headline, I said, we got to get Will on the podcast to help us understand this. Can you explain just in layman's terms, what did we see back there on July 19th? Help us interpret the headlines.
All right. Well, Cloudstrike is probably the foremost security software endpoint protection for large corporations. Their price point usually is around about $100,000 a year for you to use their products. So the smaller companies, individuals with home PCs really weren't affected because Cloudstrike is more of sort of an exclusive product offering in the security space. I had them in a company that I managed a couple of years back, and they actually offered $1 million insurance policy against any malware, ransomware attack if you use their product configured the way that they recommended. So they are supposedly very good in their space. They had not have any major ransomware attack happen on their platform. And so that was sort of their big selling point and why the larger companies use them. And so that actually was the sort of the key point in all of this is even though you said, hey, yeah, 8.5 million Windows machines were affected, in Microsoft's world, that's less than 1% of the total Windows PCs out there. So globally, it wasn't really that big of an event for Microsoft. It was more because more than half of the Fortune 500 companies and Fortune 1000 companies use CrowdStrike, and it affected, those companies, which impacted our travel and our banking and our hotels and all of that. So it's a little bit, it was a big news item, but the overall impact for normal people was actually very low.
Well, it was hitting servers more than PCs, right? So it would affect the infrastructure of these companies more than individual users in the companies. Isn't that how it went down?
Well, so endpoint protection is on both the workstations and the servers.
Oh,
so
okay.
the thing is you don't, as a company, you don't really notice if a PC that somebody works on gets a blue screen of death, and then you have to reboot it and you have to do something because that affects sort of one user. But if your servers that are affecting thousands of users, and like a Delta or Marriott or companies like that, if their servers aren't available, all of a sudden you can't connect to the web, you can't get reservations, all those things, because yes, it's on the server. They didn't really report how many workstations were affected, but typically you reboot a workstation, run a patch, and it's back up and running, where servers have a lot of sort of services that run that could have been affected by sort of the system crashing. And sometimes they have to come back up in order to make sure that, hey, their connections to a database was proper, and that would allow you, say, on the web to make an appointment or something would work properly. So a lot of things happen on the server side that would have affected this. So that was the bigger deal.
Right. Well, it might be a fine point for our listeners. The point that we're trying to make, though, is that lots of Windows devices were affected by this. And maybe you can help to clear up this point also. We keep hearing about the blue screen of death, which is the trademark Windows system crash. And think about it, folks, almost like really high-speed hydrogen embrittlement for a computer. But if you think about the Windows side of this, and then the Cloudstrike role in this was just distributing the problem that was with Microsoft, or how is it related?
Okay, so CrowdStrike and other security companies actually interact with Windows at what we call a kernel level, which in layman's terms is really at the very base level where the software connects to the hardware. And so they watch what's happening on your server, on your PCs at that very base level to say, hey, something doesn't look right. Something's happening to this PC that is out of the ordinary. I'm going to stop it. And so it's things that to the naked eye or to something on your screen of your Windows device, you wouldn't even know something was happening. And they're looking at it at the very base level. And actually, there was a court case in Europe that forced Microsoft to allow security companies the same access to that level of the software that Microsoft's security product did. So it's interesting that now, because they allow that access, a situation like CrowdStrike happens. So
yeah, right.
But basically what it was an update that forced a memory fault in Windows. And so at that base level, it crashed the system and did the whole blue screen of death scenario. And so there's a couple of reasons why that happened. And what they're saying is that their testing system that's supposed to look for those faults before it gets sent out was faulty and didn't catch it. And then the fact that they sent out all of the updates at one time and didn't stage it so they had any type of way to stop it before it went to millions of machines is another fault. So a couple things went wrong, but it was not a inherent Microsoft problem. It was a code update to the CrowdStrike software.
Can you explain the rollback process? Was that an orderly thing, or is that a major nightmare?
No, so the problem was that for some machines, you physically had to be at the machine to reboot it and to put a fix in. So if you think about a server rebooting, well, if it's a blue screen of death and you're not on it, if you're trying to handle it remotely, all of your remote agents don't work, so you can't get to that device. And so that was the big issue. Is now a lot of the servers in Azure, AWS, there's ways to get to those, obviously without physically being there, but other servers in data centers or at companies' headquarters or whatever they would have to get to those servers to be able to fix them. And that's what took so long for some of the machines to be fixed.
Wow. This is sort of wild, isn't it, actually?
You might not know this, Will, but Brian is a well-known Mac guy, so he's kind of got the smug attitude right now.
Yeah, I can be a little smug here, not too much, though. Okay.
Well, the interesting thing is that Apple does not allow access at that kernel level like Microsoft does, and so that's that's one reason that didn't happen. And CrowdStrike does work on Macs, but the update was only for the Windows devices. So there was another incident when I was looking into this with Unix machines, Linux machines with CrowdStrike in April of this year, but it wasn't big enough to where anybody really noticed that it happened. But it was a very similar situation to where they released code and it crashed them. So it's not without precedence that this has happened. It just wasn't quite as widespread.
Yeah, and I think Microsoft, whether it was announced or just noted, maybe an overnight, that as the system was the CrowdStrike problem was all being fixed up, they then suffered a denial of service attack on their system that provides the 365 system.
Correct, and it was just bad timing, but they even said that it wasn't related to the CrowdStrike incident, even though they were sort of on top of each other. So
yeah. Well, it's interesting to know, because we sort of briefly discussed this, but it's questions of the liability, because the CEO of Delta announced this morning that with thousands and thousands of cancelled flights and all sorts of things, they've suffered over $500 million worth of losses, which they intend to seek some legal remedy about. So how do you think that is going to go down in a law court?
So the way that CrowdStrike has their contracts is technically the biggest loss is what you pay them in fees for their service. Now, anyone knows that, contracts are, just because it says that doesn't mean it. If there was you should have known by this type of action that it would have caused this, and you didn't do your part to make sure that this didn't happen, and it's over and above, that type of individual contract. So I would say that based on what I was reading, that there should be losses of $500 million to $1 billion for CrowdStrike, and they are insured. But the bigger question that comes to mind on Delta is why did Delta's system not recover as fast as American or United? I was actually flying. I was in Nashville on the 19th and flying back on Saturday and Sunday, and I got 6-hour delay and got a flight on Sunday morning instead of Saturday, and so it was disruptive. But based on what I read from Delta, is their system couldn't handle the number of reschedules, and so then it just sort of snowballed on them to where their system just kept crashing and couldn't keep up with the demand. And so it was almost catastrophic to them, where it didn't happen to other airlines. So that's where it's more the FAA is going to look into Delta systems and say, hey, you have to expect that something similar, some disruption is going to happen at some point, and how are you going to be able to handle it? And I think Delta failed at it, and to blame it all on CrowdStrike is they'll get some probably recourse, but I would say it's not 100% on CrowdStrike.
Well, the big companies, the airlines, a lot of hospital complexes, media companies, they made all the headlines. You work with lots of fastener companies. Did you hear any direct involvement there?
I did not. And based on my knowledge of the fastener industry, and we have a lot of fastener clients, and we know a lot of them, I did not hear of any outage. Again, because of the type of product that CrowdStrike is, it probably did not affect the fastener industry other than travel and banking and that type of thing, because the cost of the CrowdStrike product and how it operates is probably outside the norm for most typical fastener companies. So I am not aware of any fastener companies that use CrowdStrike. Doesn't mean that there isn't one somewhere, but it isn't typically recommended in that space.
Right, yeah. It's one of 2 or 3 companies in America, possibly, fastener companies.
So very little, if any, direct involvement, only ripples, of which there were many, and they're chilling ripples too, because aside from just the impact on business, this is a specter of technical disaster. And as you know, the conversation is out there that there's going to be some sort of a major internet disruption or series of disruptions. The timing of this thing right ahead of the RNC convention had a lot of people wondering if this wasn't some kind of a dry run or something, and you could go crazy talking about those ideas. But the fact is, as Brian mentioned a few minutes ago, there was also a denial of service attack that some opportunist may have launched in conjunction with this, when they saw they were on their back. So it's a dangerous IT world out there, Will, and you know that very well, better than most.
Correct. And even at the Olympics right now, there's been multiple attempts and, taking out fiber that was for communication at the Olympics, even as a way to actually almost a terrorist attack, because if you can't communicate with people, if you don't, emergency services aren't working because they rely on technology, that it has a significant impact in our lives in ways that we don't really realize because we take it for granted that it's just always going to work.
Yeah, right.
I mentioned the presentation that I sat in on at the Southwest event recently, and you had a couple of top bullet points that you're recommending all fastener distributors pay attention to just make sure their IT hygiene is there. And although the case of Cloudstrike was not a ransomware or denial of service style attack, those are still big liabilities for fastener companies, aren't they? And they've hit several of them. And you had advice for companies looking to avoid this.
Correct. So in this scenario, it really is a disaster recovery, business continuity type of discussion, because there can be many different types of disasters. And so while this CrowdStrike maybe didn't hit them directly, because most of their systems are Windows based, because they rely on the internet and some have cloud-based servers and ransomware, but it could be as much as, hey, all your Windows machines, maybe Windows comes out with an update that crashes everything and it takes a while. So all of these items are unexpected events that affect you being able to do business. And so if you haven't had discussions about what is our plan, if our technology isn't working, if we can't get access to our servers, what is that time to get back in place? How much do we have control of? And if it's something that we don't have any control of, how are we going to react when maybe your servers are in Azure and all of a sudden Azure isn't available? What does that mean to your company? And then what's your plan when that happens? So if you haven't had those discussions, that's really the what we recommend is, have that business continuity plan of, okay, we're going to go to paper, or we're going to have a backup system on, one of our locations that we can spin up, or whatever that solution is for you, to make sure that you've thought through this process, because there might not always be somebody to help you with your technology at that level. If Microsoft has an outage, they're not going to be, calling up most fastener companies and saying, "Oh, how can we help you?" Because those companies are very small in the scheme of who they need to get back up first. And so that's always, sort of what we preach is like, no, you have to be able to have a plan in place and have tested that plan to be able to operate your business regardless what's happening, whether it's a fire or a storm or an internet outage or, server crashing or ransomware or whatever. And so having those plans is critical to keep your company functioning when something unexpected happens.
Yeah, no, you're right. And actually, I had great experience in that. I was sent to Germany to fix up a problem with a company we had bought, which did a programming change to one of their systems. It was a big IBM 380 something or other. And it crashed and it could never be recovered. And the company was $1 billion company, went bankrupt. It just could not possibly get their software working again.
Well, and exactly. And so if we're relying, say, on Microsoft, if, in the best case world, we recommend that you have backups outside of one single company, so that if you have all your stuff in 365 and you have Azure, that you have a backup with a different company, so that if for some reason Microsoft was hit and they lost some data, that you have, systems in other companies, so that it's one individual, Fortune 500 company doesn't take out, all of your data. And so it's actually a fallacy for people to think Microsoft will keep their stuff secure, because if they lose your data, they are not legally responsible for getting it back. So yes, that is not good business for them if they don't have backups of your stuff, and they do have multiple data centers across the world that are backing up everything. And so it's unlikely, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible like we saw. And so if you lost your mailboxes, what would you do? And if Microsoft couldn't get them back and say, "Oh, sorry, we don't guarantee your data," what is it that you do? And so that's there's a lot of companies for a very $3 or $4 a month to back up all your OneDrive and your SharePoint and your 365 to another service that you could have access if something like that happens. So there is solutions for it. So it's more to make sure that you're having those conversations, that you've thought through the process of what are we going to do if something happens. If you say, "Hey, we'll take our chances. If Microsoft goes down, then the world's, pretty bad off, and we'll just deal with it." Again, that's a decision also. But if you haven't had that thought process and discussion and written down what you're going to do when something happens, then you're not in a good position, in my opinion.
Oh, I would think there's a number of people, probably many, including us possibly, who would not be sleeping that well tonight, thinking about what you've said. Okay.
Well, it's so if you look at it, it's like an insurance policy.
Yeah, it is.
And it really is. It's a risk assessment. And then as a business owner, what are you willing to spend to make sure? So if you look at larger companies, and we have quite a few of them, for them to spend, $1,000, $1,500 a month on backups to multiple different locations is a no-brainer for them. For the smaller guys to think, "Oh, I got to spend $3 more per mailbox to make sure it's backed up on another platform other than Microsoft," I don't want to do that. Again, it's a business decision, and maybe you can recover without your emails, and you just start from fresh, and they know who you are, and you can still do your orders or whatever that is. But again, it comes down to just that risk assessment for your company, and then an insurance policy, and whether it's an actual policy or it's, "Hey, this is our plan and this is what we pay for it, and we know we're going to be down for 4 hours or we're going to be down for a day, and that's okay because we can go to manual and we'll be up tomorrow or in 2 days when we get a new server." Those are business owner discussions that just need to be made, and there isn't a right answer for each company. It's what's right for your company.
Yeah, no, it's a great comment, actually.
We're speaking with Will Snyder. He's with WTC Managed IT Services. Will, there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying here. And of course, I also think of it in terms of, hey, this is a really nice fastener distributorship you got here. You wouldn't want anything bad to happen to it, would you? There's always that idea I got in my mind. But hey, when you started with WTC now, it's been some time. Of course, Tom White is the founder of the company, right?
Tom and I founded it together.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Then you guys got your start though back in the days of Porteous Fastener, isn't that right?
That is correct. I was actually a consultant at Porteous when Tom came back, and he had worked with the Porteous brothers before I was there, and then they actually hired him back to be the CIO, and I was his systems support person for 4 years. And we basically rebuilt the Porteous environment. Tom actually designed and built the ERP that Porteous was using. And then when BBI had purchased Porteous, we started WTC because we saw a gap in the technology space for the fastener industry. And since we had worked in it for so long, we understood it. We started WTC to service the technology fastener industry. And we do have some of our same help desk people from Porteous that actually work for us. We have a lot of fastener experienced staff, and we really know the environment. So that's why we're here.
Yeah, you know the fastener space for sure. Plus, you have an interesting relationship with InSequel by virtue of the Porteous history, too.
Yeah, so, I mean, we support all ERPs, but InSequel is we started with InSequel when we were with Porteous. Tom actually helped that connection between Bob and actually both Bobs. And so from there, they refer to us for technical expertise around the fastener industry. And we've known them for a long time, sort of since they started the whole direct connect thing with other companies in the industry. And so we really understand their software. But again, just to make sure, we do support all software, but InSQL is definitely dear to our heart.
Bri, I thought you were going to jump in there with some Porteous reminiscence.
Well, it was the whole experience for me. It was, we rebuilt the system, we moved all their warehouses. So, I've been to almost every one of their locations and cities. And so that type of experience, when I walk into a fastener building, it just, everything feels normal to me. So I can have discussions with business owners around any challenges they have. And Tom is a genius in this stuff too. So again, we're very much at home in this space.
Actually, I connected with Tom too when he was at Porteous, because we were developing a very early version of what is the part number lookup system. And originally it was for Porteous parts. And I think Cal Fasteners were testing it out for us. It was a sort of a little bit probably before its time in terms of working well, I have to say.
It was the precursor to Direct Connect, I think.
Yeah, it was early on. And so we were working, Tom was sending us data and we were working within SQL trying to work how will we get this thing working, okay? So it was sort of interesting. Things have got a long way since then. That was many years ago, that was.
Yeah, back in the Porteous days, had you ever even heard of a denial of service attack?
That's the funny thing, right? Is we thought, I think we had semantic or something, and we just left that on there. Oh yeah, we're covered. We didn't even have the internets were all T1s. We all had, Cisco routers with MPLS between all the branches, spending thousands and thousands of dollars a month just to communicate.
Yeah.
Between their 12 branches or whatever. And so it was completely different world from now, but the industry itself, the actual, the technology and how the warehouses are laid out that's all still the same. It's just the thought process around it when Tom talks to existing or new customers, it's still the same sort of Porteous thought process around the warehousing and what's special to the fastener industry. So that hasn't changed over time.
For the days of simple boot sector viruses.
Exactly.
We could all go back to a simpler time.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Well, Will Snyder, I'd like to have you back at some point to redux that presentation you did at the Southwest with your basic hygiene menu. We kind of burned through this one on the Cloudstrike thing, but thanks for putting that into perspective for us.
Yeah, really quick, the thing is make sure your backups are good so that when something happens, even like CrowdStrike here, you could restore from a server. Make sure you have good endpoint protection. CrowdStrike was or is the top of the line as far as that goes. So it's, they're going to take a hit a little bit, but there's a lot of next gen products out there. You just can't assume business as usual. You have to have somebody that looks at this from a new, if you haven't had your network looked at in the last 3 to 5 years, so much has changed. So just be aware that it's not business as usual, and the products just to protect your company are not that expensive. I mean, you're not even talking thousands of dollars for a small fastener company. It's very reasonable. So just be aware and don't think it's never going to happen to me, because it's not hard to protect your company.
Well, your advice is great advice, and I think lots of people would like to hear more from you, okay?
Okay, look forward to it.
If you want to pick Will Snyder's brain on any of this, the website is WTCVET.com. It's a lot of rhyming letters there. That's Whiskey Tango Charlie Victor Echo Tango for those of you in the Air Force.
We do have a site specifically for the fastener industry at tech4fasteners.com.
Oh, cool.
And that actually is, we set up because that vertical is something that we're focused on. So we do have tech4fasteners.com. I know a lot of you, and I'm in a lot of the locations, so you can ask anybody. They pretty much know how to get a hold of us too.
Will Snyder, thanks for being with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
This isn't some kind of partially threaded radio show. Oh, no. This is fully threaded radio. Talk radio for the fastener industry.
Star Stainless domestic products are made with domestic materials, reinforcing our dedication to supporting American manufacturing. Find what you need today at starstainless.com.
Are you tired of empty promises from software vendors? Are you paying for support that you're not receiving? Is it time for another paid upgrade? There is a solution. InSequel delivers quality software designed for the fastener industry at an affordable price with industry-leading support. Quality software, affordable pricing, industry-leading support. Only InSequel can deliver all three. www.inxsql.com.
Brighton Best International is excited to introduce Profert cement screws, finished with a special coating for corrosion resistance, featuring a patented Posi drive with anti-cam-out ribs. These screws ensure a strong and secure bit engagement. Ready to experience the Profert difference? Give our cement screws a try and discover how they perform. Explore our cement screws for added durability. Also available, stainless steel decking screws. For more information, visit preferredscrews.com or contact your personalized pro for more details.
Hey, this is Don Shan Fastener. No S on the end, guys. No S. Shan Fastener. You're listening to Eric and Brian. Over a decade. The Blowhorn. Fully threaded radio.
Brian and Eric back with you to close out another one.
Yeah.
Well, it was good of Will to break down his view of what happened with this whole Cloudstrike thing, and just goes to show that you can really never be too safe when it comes to anything technology related, and backing up your data is a very, very good practice to get into.
Yes. Yes, I'm sure the CEO of Delta has been sitting thinking about that, despite whatever he's saying on the news.
Yeah, a lot of headlines seeping out about lawsuits and stuff coming out of that, but the liability there seems like it's a little questionable. But
yeah.
The main point is that the technology and the internet world is filled with potential problems. You got to have a good partner like WTC Business Technology Services around when you need them. So it was good of Will Snyder to join us, and he's a wealth of information. And he knows the fastener space too.
Yes.
I'd like to thank our other guests on today's episode, Sam Underwood with Goebel Fasteners, and Brad Tinney. He and Mike McNulty, I think, did a pretty good job of keeping it together in spite of a really frightening FDI report this month. But if anyone would be up to it, it would be Brad and Mike.
Well, it's not necessarily a frightening report. It's just lower than 50. It's been lower than 50 for a while before.
Yeah, you just hate to see those confidence stats begin to sag and some of the comments and things.
Right. But it's also election year, and so everyone's just sitting thinking.
Yeah, that I will not be tired of no longer hearing about.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I'm sick of it too.
And, of course, Carmen Vertullo had the Fastener Training Minute for us today. Thank you, as always, sir, and to everybody who made Fully Threaded possible today, including our listeners and including our great lineup of sponsors. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, tested, tried, true, Brighton Best. Goebel Fasteners, quality the first time. Go Goebel. And Star Stainless, right off the shelf, it's Star. Fully Threaded Radio is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, the International Fastener Expo, J. Lanfranco, Solution Industries, 3Q Inc., Volt Industrial Plastics, and Worth Industry North America. Couldn't do it without you. Look forward to seeing you in Chicago and then in Vegas.
Right.
Of course, our sponsors are pulling off so many things across the industry. I mean, they're responsible for so much that goes on that's good. For example, Star is supporting the Fastener Training Institute in Vegas this year, and Worth is a longtime sustaining partner with the Fastener Training Institute.
We all know how important education in the industry is, especially as more and more younger people are coming into it.
And Fully Threaded Radio partners are there. Very cool. And we're glad you're there, folks, listening to us, giving us some feedback, support yourselves. We're going to put this one in the can and talk to you in person very shortly.
Yes, if you're in the show next week, don't hesitate to find FCH and come and tell us how you enjoy the podcast and how many people you've also referred it to.
Now, if they do that, Bri, will you give them a pen?
Well, maybe.
You're supposed to just hand them out, Bri.
No.
All right, we'll get it going.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, everyone. For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Get out there and sell some screws, everyone. We'll talk to you next time.
Stop by next week, okay? See you then.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fastener's Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.